All right, welcome back to Microbit. This is Lab 2, which is going to focus on buttons, variables, and conditional statements. So you're going to have three tasks. The first task is going to be make a nameplate using the buttons. So when you push button A, it'll display your first name, button B, your last name, button A and B, it'll be your initials with a 3-second pause in between. So this is what that program looks like for me. So when I push button A, you can see here it's displaying my first name, which is Alan. When I push button B, it's going to display my last name. And then when I push button A and B, it's going to display my initials. So A with a 3-second pause in between, J, and then L. If you don't have a middle name, then obviously it's just your first and last initial. For task 2, you're going to be creating a button tracking program that uses button A, B, and A and B to track touches with emojis. So for this particular one, this is what it's going to look like. When you push button A, you're going to need to have some kind of emoji, and it's showing you that you're increasing your variable count by 1. So you will have to use variables in this program. So now I'm at 2. So every time I push button A, it's increasing by 1. When I push button B, you can see it's going down. It went from 3 to 2 and then back down to 1. When I push buttons A and B, it's increasing by 5 each time. And as we get into the larger numbers there, it'll obviously kind of create like a scrolling feature, but now we're at 16. All right. For the next task, what you're going to do, for task 3 here, you are going to be creating a program that will trigger weather animations based on the variable count. So it's going to be similar to the last one, but in this one, you're going to have to use some conditional statements like if statements in order to cause different things to happen. So if you quickly read this, when you push button A, and it will add 10 to the count. When you push button B, it subtracts 10. When you push button A and B, it'll reset the count to 0. If the count exceeds 70, you will display a raining effect where the pixels move down the screen. If the count is below -10, you'll create an animation effect where the raindrops will be flying across the screen. And if you push buttons A and B, it should have a sun that will come out, like a beating sun animation that should repeat 4 times in a loop. All right, so that is what this looks like. So when I push button A, you can see it's increasing by 10 because we're at 10. So I'm just going to quickly go up to 70, or it has to exceed 70. So I'm going to go to 80 so you can see the raindrop animation occur. So we're at 50, 60, 70. And when I push it one more time, you'll see my animation get triggered here after it displays 80. So there's my raindrops falling down the screen. And then I can quickly go down here. I don't know if it's going to, there we go. So it's kind of going across. All right. And then it's just kind of taking a little while to take effect. And then for this right here is going to be your boss fight. So for your boss fight, let's just jump over here to the document. And for your boss fight, you're going to create an emotion meter. So basically, you're going to kind of use what you've been using for task 1, 2, and 3, but you're going to use buttons and inputs to manipulate a motion level variable, displaying a matching face animation. You're going to combine your understanding of buttons, variables, and if, else, elif, and else statements, which are conditionals, in a creative way. So you need to have, these are the requirements. All right, so basically what it is you're creating a variable called mood. You're going to set it to 0. When you push button A, it should subtract 3 from that mood variable and display an updated value of whatever it is, and then also display it. And then you're going to add, when you add 3 to the mood, it should display the updated variable. And then for button A and B, it should reset the mood to 0 and display a neutral face animation. And here's where the conditionals come in, which should be done in a forever loop. Now remember, whenever you use if statements, if you want them to actually work, they have to be put in some kind of a looping structure, because the way that if statements work, it's only going to execute or check the condition one single time when you hit start. So that's why putting it in a forever loop is crucial, so that way it continuously checks to see if mood is greater than 10 or less than negative 10 in this case. So if it's greater than 10, it should display a happy face, like I did like uh, a smiling animation, like blinking, and then sad face. I ended up doing tears, and then otherwise it's a neutral face. So that is this program right here. So right now you can see it's displaying a neutral face, when the program starts. Now when I hit A, it's going to subtract 3. So I will go down here to get below negative 10. So that way you can see my sad face come up. So now we're at negative 12. So the sad face, or the face with the tears dropping, that would be when it exceeds, or when it's less than negative 10. So I'll go the other way now. And we want to get to a value greater than 10. So that way you guys can see my eyes blinking. So we are at 0. So we got to go up a couple more. That's 3. That's 6. That's 9. All right, now it should show you. There it goes. My eyes are blinking. So that should be repeating twice. And then when I push buttons A and B, it should set it back to 0. Okay, so that's kind of like the gist of what you're going to have to do for this. So I'm just going to jump into MakeCode or into Microbit here, so we can kind of go through a couple things. So how to create variables. Let's start with that. So I'm going to make a basic program here. So I'm going to call this count. And then the very first thing you should do is drag out your set count. So when the program starts, it should set the count to 0. Okay. Now, in order to use buttons in this, you have to go and use the input event, go into the input container and drag out these events. All right. So I'm going to duplicate this because I'm going to show you how you can do it quickly with buttons A, B, and you hit the drop down. You can choose all these and then A and B. All right. I'm going to leave the forever block over here because I am going to use it when I want to show how to use conditional statements. So let's just start with something super basic, right? So I'm just going to show an icon. So when I press button A, okay, it is going to show me a heart. All right. When I push button B, it's going to show me, I don't know, a smiley face. Okay. So when I push button B now, it shows me a smiley face. And I'll do, when I push button A and B, then maybe I'll show this little duck looking icon. So I can show you here on the virtual microbit, it shows me the duck. All right. But now let's actually use variables, right? Because I want to keep track of things. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's kind of think about this. So what I want to do is when I push button A, I want to increase the count. All right. So in Microbit, it's very easy. If you go to variables, in order to increase the count, you can use this change block. So we have set blocks and we have change blocks. Set blocks is kind of like setting a variable in the beginning. Change blocks allows you to either increase or decrease by whatever value you want. So in this case, let's do by 2s. All right, I'm going to change the count by 2 every time. And then for when I push button B, I'm going to subtract 2 from the count. So it's kind of like skip counting by 2s. So when I push button A, it should be like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? Every time I push button A. All right, and then when I get to button A and B, if I ever press that, I'm going to actually set my count back to 0. That will make it nice and easy for us to set our count back to 0. All right. Now, when I push button A here, it's going to show my heart, and you don't even realize that it's doing it because it's not displaying it. But that brings me to my next important point, because I think it's useful for programmers to be able to kind of see how variables are updating. So in order to actually show a numerical value, like in this case count, which is holding a value, you can use this show number block. What we're going to do here is I'm going to pop this into each of these here. You saw that when I showed you the video of task 1, 2, and 3 earlier, it was actually showing the numbers as it was going. So what I can do here is I can go to the variables container, and once you create a variable, you have this oval block here, and I'm going to reuse those. I'm going to use that, sorry, in each of these events. All right, so that way it shows me what the updated count is, so I can keep track. So it should show me a heart and then 2, heart and then 4. This is me pressing A continuously, right? Now I'm going to go back down and push button A and B to show you that it does go back to 0. When I push button B, it should be subtracting 2. That's why I put a -2. So in this case, it goes -2, -4, right? So every time I push it, it's smiley face and then a negative and then subtracting 2, right? If I push button A and B, it shows me the duck and goes back down to 0. So that's great. Doesn't really do a ton, but you get the basic idea. But now let's program in some conditionals that allow our program to make certain decisions. So as we've learned in previous units of instruction this year, conditional statements like if and elif and else statements, these all only get checked one single time. So if you want them to be continuously checked, like throughout the duration of your entire program, then you have to put your conditionals inside of a looping structure. A forever event here is going to be, it's going to continuously check whatever it is we want to check, right? Forever. So I'm going to go into the logic container and I'm going to drag out an if statement here. All right, just so I can show you how this works. So what I want to say is, let's say the count reaches 10, right? So I'll say if the count is greater than or equal to 10. So I have to go back into the logic container. I'm going to pull out an inequality symbol. You'll notice here, just like in previous units of instruction, we have this Boolean space here that says if true. Remember, Boolean is just true or false. So I need a hexagonal block, hexagonal shaped block, 6-sided shape that can actually fit in here. All right. So I'm going to say if it's greater than or let's do greater than or equal to. If it's greater than or equal to, let's say 10. Okay. Now what? If what is greater than or equal to 10? So if the count. So I'm going to go back in here and pull out a count variable. All right. So if the count variable is greater than or equal to 10, all right, what do I want to happen? Well, maybe I want it to actually do like a beating heart. So I'm going to create like an animation. So in order to do that, I'll just drag that out. I'll drag one of these pause blocks out to do an animation. And then maybe I will use that. I think that should do it. So let's just test this out with one single if statement and see. So right now it's at 2. It just showed me a single heart. It's not actually beating. Okay, 4, because I haven't reached 10 yet. But when I do get to 10, it should actually make that heart animate. Okay, so now I'm at 10, and let's see what it does here. You can see here it's just continuously animating now. So that's kind of how if statements work. It allows your program, and we could obviously add more conditions into this, right? So I'm going to add 2 more here, and maybe I want to say, I don't know, if the count becomes not greater than, but let's say it's less than or equal to, I don't know, -4. Okay. Then maybe I want to do something like create an animation for the smiley face, right? So maybe I'll animate that. So maybe I'll do like this, and then I'll do like every other block to kind of get that animation feel, and then I'll come back in here and I will go and actually create the full smiley face like that. Okay, so that should create like an animation effect there when I reach negative. So now I'm going to go back to 0 and I'm going to hit letter B so I can start decrementing or subtracting 2 each time. So now I'm at -4 and it should animate that smiley face, which it is doing right now. And then for the else part of it, maybe I just have nothing going on, right? Or it could be anything. It could be just like a plain neutral face, right? So it just kind of depends on how you want the program to work. So that would mean between values of -3 and 9, essentially, then we would just have this face showing up if I'm not doing anything. So this allows you to a lot of power here in terms of kind of building your program out and allowing your program to make decisions based on different sensors and different input from you as the user. So good luck on your tasks and your boss fight.